It's time for Gun and Saddle, a United Country M. Edwards Realty Land weekly broadcast, where we talk about anything and everything related to our God-fearing country lifestyles and the blood, sweat, and tears that it takes to make them possible. Join Monty Edwards and Pierce Lancaster as they take a deeper look at the land we all love and the people that call it home. This is Gun and Saddle.
Go ahead. Keep going. We good? Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Gun and Saddle. I'm Pierce Lancaster.
This is Monty Edwards. Guys, I want to, first I'll start off to give you a forewarning. Today's the first day that we're going to do live interviews, and we've already had a little glitch today, but hang in there with us. I'm going to be looking off to the right from time to time. It's not because I've got attention deficit disorder, even though I do, but it's also because I'm watching the monitor here. So we're really excited about today's show, Pierce.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one, man. I'm really excited for this one.
We've got two really good interviews. We kind of pushed this out a week ago. We're talking about a lot of this. We wanted everyone to kind of have a chance to get ready for it. We've got two people on that I think you're both going to really enjoy. We've got Roddy Chesser first. He's going to come in. He's the one that we titled the Hunting, Fishing Preacher. Yeah. And he's going to be in to talk with us. And then later on at the end of the show, towards the second half of the show, Pierce is going to be interviewing John Wilhite. And John's a realtor with United Country, and he's at the Oklahoma Land and Auction Office. So we're going to be able to do that. Before we get into our interviews, though, Pierce, I wanted to give you a little bit of a chance to kind of catch everybody up, let them know kind of what's been going on since last week, since the hunting deal with the hunting wrap-up, the weather, things. We might have some viewers that are not local. So Talk to them a little bit about what's going on this week.
Well, man, I mean, weather-wise, it's been kind of normal the last few days. Been getting cold finally. Checking in on a couple of, you're looking at that weather app. It looks like it's going to get warm again. It's going to get back. What's the high today? Have you seen that?
I mean, yesterday we didn't get as cold as we were supposed to.
Yeah.
We were supposed to be in the high 40s. But, yeah, in the comments I'm getting from a lot of the guys, like getting kind of talking over on the farming and ranching side for a little bit, we're needing some moisture. It's getting really dry. Also, we had a good start with some of the guys with the wheat, but this hot weather is taking its toll. I mean, it's not normally 85 degrees consecutive days like we've had, so that's something that we're going to...
It needs to get cold.
It does. I mean, for the hunting, too. Yeah. I think it's got things kind of backed up a little bit there, too. I was able to go sit in a tree stand Saturday afternoon, first time down at a place where I whitetail hunt, and the deer had been moving pretty good the day before, or even during the early part of that day, but it warmed up even on that day, which was a cooler day. And I wasn't seeing any movement in deer until I was climbing down out of the stand. So,
well, I picked up, back to that hunting show, I picked up the cameraman, Jake. He's from Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And when we were driving out to Littlefield, he was telling me about how, up there, they're still getting, 50, 60-degree days. Yeah. If you look at that from a bird hunting standpoint, those ducks, if there's ducks and geese up there, there's no reason for them to move down. So, until it gets cold. Yeah. And so it not only does it need to get cold here, it needs to get cold up north too.
Well, and we've been around, though, long enough to know that, we don't wish for too much cold weather because just like last year, we kind of had an Indian summer, Indian fall going into it. And then, well, boy, here it came in January and February, and it was one of the most bitter winters that we saw. So, who knows what's around the corner there. I'm excited because we're going to get started with these interviews. I hope you guys enjoy them. I'm going to kind of tee up and go with Roddy first. But before we do that, we're going to take a small break.
For all the reasons we at Realty United Country Hunting Properties can list to buy your own hunting and recreational property, these have to be at the top. Contact your local Realty Land Pro and turn your passion into possibilities.
Hey, Roddy. Glad you could join us. Are you hearing us okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, Roddy, tell us first before we get started. Tell us where you're located and where you live and all that.
We live in San Angelo. I've been down here about 13 years, 14 years, something like that now, and pastor a church here called Open Door Family Fellowship.
All right. Well, listen, I've got a few questions while we've got you here. I wanted to kind of let folks get to know you a little bit. I actually met Roddy when we were going to school in college, and don't want to embarrass him here, but he was one of the smarter guys that I knew. So I kind of figured out I needed to get some help on some of my math homework, and Roddy was the guy. So no, but we actually kind of had a little gathering every morning. All the ranch kids from New Mexico and a few of the Texas kids, but we'd all eat breakfast at the cafeteria. You remember that, Roddy?
You bet, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, listen, I just kind of want to go in. I mean, you've got a neat background to me. I know you've got a rich Western culture in your background, but, I had been a few years out of college when I'd heard that you got into ministry and become a preacher. And I guess one of the questions I wanted to ask for our audience was, when and where did you realize that you were being called to preach?
We were living in Clovis at the time, and I was working as a commodity broker. I used to work for Southwest Commodities for Doug Harrison. And just, up until that point in my life, we, went to church, but I really had never read the Bible for myself. And I went, sat down, got my Bible out, went to reading it. And my wife came in one day, and Wendy, she and I were talking, and she said, what have you been reading? What are you thinking? And I said, this is going to sound really strange, but I kind of feel like God's helping me understand the Bible so that I can help somebody else understand it. And she looked at me kind of funny at the time. She said, well, that kind of sounds like preacher stuff. And she didn't marry a preacher. So that this was going to affect her as well. And that's just kind of how it all got started. And I went to a great church at Texaco First Baptist Church, and my pastor was really, really encouraging. And he just got right behind me and really helped me out an awful lot.
Well, you answered my next question. I guess kind of touched on that a little bit with your family and everything. But, I know when a person answers a call like that, it can some capacity turn a person's life a little bit upside down. And but it sounds like you had a lot of support and people that were there backing you up. And, boy, you got to love our wives when we take a course correction and they just hang on and go with us, don't you?
Absolutely.
Another important question, one of the things that I thought was good and wanted to talk about here, since our focus is recreational property and farm and ranch, at least when did you start hunting? I mean, did you hunt as a kid? I talked to a lot of guys that, start hunting later in life, but have you been hunting ever since you were young?
Grew up hunting, had a BB gun and a pellet gun when I was little, had a big, good, nice hay barn, and my job was to thin the pigeon population. Hunted rabbits with a 410 and a 22. My dad would load me and my sister up, and we'd go down to an old caliche pit where we dump trash, and we'd shoot bottles, shoot up a box of shells at least once a week. My granddad would give us a case of 22 shells for Christmas every year. That was what we got. So yeah, I killed my first deer when I was probably 6 or 7 years old. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, we started young, and just what we had. We didn't really go on any big trips or anything like that. We have some real good friends, Terry and Pauline Lewis and Brent and Dion, and Terry would always let us come up to their place and hunt, and just hunted deer all through school, from the time I was 6 or 7 years old.
Well, that was one of the questions I was going to ask after you took that call and you became a preacher. How did that get in the way of your hunting?
Well, it's
I don't get you in trouble here answering some of your congregation.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's kind of funny. Like I say, I kind of took a hiatus from all of that. Hunted all the way through college, and then kind of lost my opportunities for a little while. Always, called coyotes and one thing and another at mom and dad's place, but really kind of didn't get cranked up again until we moved down here to San Angelo.
Well, and I know what you mean about losing your place to hunt. One thing growing up in an ag family and working around having land, we take that for granted, I think. And having worked in real estate for several years, I see people that are just trying every way they can to buy a piece of ground so they have a place to hunt. So, that was something that I kind of had happen to me too when I got out of school, and of course got some commitments with my family going that I didn't have before. But I didn't really return back to hunting until I was almost 30, and really hadn't deer hunted until I was older. Started doing that with my son. But that was one of the other things that I wanted to ask you. I see lots of pictures on your Facebook page, and I've kept, that's how we all keep up with each other nowadays, as bad as that is, because then we don't end up calling each other. But I see lots of pictures that show you hunting and fishing, but the thing that I noticed about them that was the most interesting to me was that you were doing it with your kids. And I just wanted to let you talk about that. And it seems like you've always made hunting in the latter part of your life a family activity. So would you tell us a little bit about that, Roddy?
Yeah, the Lord's blessed us. We've got 5 children, got 4 girls and 1 boy, and they are from 9 to 20. And we homeschool all our kids. I say we. My wife homeschools our kids. I'm the principal and the shop teacher and the school interrupter. And so I kind of get in trouble sometimes. But anyway, we, you're talking about opportunities. When my kids got, when they were just big enough to hold a gun, I think we're very privileged in this country. We have the Second Amendment. We have the right to keep and bear arms. But along with that, I believe comes an incredible responsibility, and that is to handle them properly. And so we start with 22s, pellet guns, when they're real little. And so we've always shot. Single shot 22 is where they started once they moved past a BB gun and a pellet gun. And we started working our way up. And so when opportunities rose for them to be able to hunt a deer, I have a rule. You have to be able to hit a dinner plate at 100 yards with a 243 before you can go hunt deer. Texas has a rule that you have to be 9 years old to take hunter safety. So, so when my kids are 9, they take hunter safety, and that allows us to go hunt in New Mexico. We've got some friends that have a place in New Mexico, and they let the kids hunt mule deer there and some elk. And so that's kind of how we got started with that with the kids. And I don't pressure them; they don't have to. They all know that's a choice that they have, but they've all wanted to. Julia's my youngest, and I'm going to tell you what: you have never seen a more excited kid than her when it was time for her to take hunter safety. She is so excited, and she is so petite. And I catch a little bit of flack for a 243 with her. But, when you hunt mule deer in New Mexico, you may have to reach out there a little ways, and you need a little bit more punch than a 223 or 22-250 or something like that. So we just like a 243. It's kind of my favorite, and we get them started with that. But, the fact of just getting your kids involved with something like hunting, like fishing, get them outside, get them out in nature, let them see how to, be patient, learn how to sit still and be quiet. And that's what Fred Bear said. He said, if you're gonna be successful as a hunter, you need to learn 2 things: sit still and be quiet. And kids today.
For all the reasons.
Sorry, Roddy, keep going.
No problem. They have a lot of opportunities to be inundated with social media and different things like that. I think it's just great to get out to enjoy God's creation, to see these creatures, just to sit and you guys know, one of my favorite things in the whole wide world to do is just sit on a stand and just watch a bunch of deer, a bunch of gobblers and hens working or something. It's just incredible to observe what God has created. Just be a part of that, to learn what happens, to see something born. And we grew up ranching and running cattle, and I mean we've pulled calves from the time I was a little bitty guy, have puppies born, kittens born, lambs, kids, anything. We live in a world where we think that life begins at birth. Well, it doesn't. Life begins at conception, and for teaching kids about the birds and the bees, there ain't no better way than see, that's a buck and that's a doe. We got all this confusion and all of these things, and then to see something die, and to be a part of that, to realize that it's okay to take these animals' lives. God's given them to us. They're a part of this creation. We don't just kill just to kill. We're killing for meat, for food, for our survival, and God's given it to us. And this creation is just so unbelievable. I'm kind of adamant. My girls don't have to gut their deer, but my son, from the very first one he ever killed, he's had his hands right in the middle of it, and some of the girls will help with that. But they do have to help skin them, and then we process all of our own stuff ourselves. So, they kind of learn where food comes from, what it takes to figure out, how we get this stuff. It doesn't come from a grocery store, somewhere an animal is going to lose its life in this process. And that's okay. It's a good thing. So,
well, and Roddy, we deal with, I think we're seeing a nation that's trying to find its compass right now. So many people over the last 2 generations at least have had their kids that grew up on a farm, but for whatever reason, with the economy, the changing in agriculture and ranching and farming with technology, it's taken less people to run these operations, and the operations have gotten bigger. But anyway, it's one of those situations where we're looking at a deal that people need to reconnect. They need to connect their kids. I mean, I think about what you're talking there about, your example with the birds and the bees. By the time I got to junior high health class, that would have been a foregone conclusion. But you see in the cities where it's such a big deal about sex education, and then also you talk about appreciating life. Sadly, one of the first places that a kid is exposed to a gun in most cases today is on a video game, where if they mess up and shoot something they didn't mean to, they can hit a reset button and start over. And, I remember taking my kid out for the first time when we went deer hunting, and, it was a happy, joyous occasion, but it was a solemn one too. And that's something that they learn that man, we take it for granted. We're blessed that we get to grow up in the rural part of the country and get to do this. But I think there's a lot of people that want to get reconnected to that today, that it's hard. I mean,
I agree with you. I think that, I think there's some lessons that can be taught about, not just enjoying nature, but responsibility, making a decision, learning how to look at an animal and decide. Right now we're hunting culls on the place that we are at, and so you gotta get ready before you go. When that great big really nice pretty one walks up, you gotta let him walk. You don't get to just go, oh well, let's just shoot him and go on. We have a landowner that is trusting us to help with his program of conservation and genetics and all of those kind of things. So there's so many lessons that kids learn. But the most important one to me is just being together. I get a kid or two with me in the pickup or in a deer stand, and I got their total attention. Phone won't work, and so nobody's going to call or text, and we just spend time together, learn how to do something. And you know what? I don't even think it has to be involved in agriculture, hunting, and fishing. Just something.
I agree.
Dads and moms get in their kids' lives and teach them how to do something that's not necessarily about being a kid. Teach them about something that they're going to do for the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's how kids grow up.
No doubt. And I know you and I share an acquaintance, a guy that talks a lot about what we teach our kids around the kitchen table. And, same thing. And that kind of segues me into a little deal I want us to touch on before this section ends. You visited a little bit about your church and the approach that you guys take with the family-based ministry. Boy, it just lines up real good with the way I can tell you just live your life, Roddy. And if you could, tell us a little bit about your church and how you guys are set up. I think it'd be interesting for some of the folks out there listening.
Well, when we started our church, we decided that we were going to use a family integrated approach. So instead of separating families for discipleship, we try to keep folks together. And then we really encourage and try to equip families to carry out discipleship in their home. So in other words, mom and dad sit down with the Bible, read the Bible together with their kids, take turns reading the Bible. We don't have this is the way you do it. We just want to encourage families to pray together, to open up that Bible together and read together as a family, and spend time, intentionally discipling our children, and husbands and wives intentionally encouraging each other in the Word, rather than it being, we all come to church and the kids go to their class, mom goes to her class, dad goes to his class, and then we meet up again for lunch. We try to keep folks together. I think the most important lessons, here's part of it. When I was growing up, I can tell you pretty much every really important lesson that my dad ever taught me. And none of them were in a classroom. None of them were involved, some kind of PowerPoint presentation. They were, this is how you make sure that you cinch a horse up tight. This is how you make sure this rope is tied on tight so that you don't get your finger underneath there. This is how you dally. This is how you nail a shoe on a horse. This is what a sick calf looks like. This is how you pull a calf, and also this is how you handle money, because God is watching you. Right. The way you handle your money is talking about your heart. You need to put your trust in Jesus and trust in Him for salvation alone. And my mom and my dad, they instilled those things into me. So did my grandparents. I had a really, really great. I wouldn't trade for the way I was raised for anything in the world. But what it boils down to is they had a little boy. There's a guy named Steve Farrar, and he writes a lot of men's ministry kind of stuff. And one of the things that Steve Farrar says is, he says, the only thing that God can use to make a man is a little boy.
Amen.
But I mean, how it's so simple, and yet you look at it, and we live in a culture that's trying so hard to keep little boys. So we got a bunch of grown up people, but they still act like little boys. They still have the character of little boys. And I did not grow up in a household like that. I grew up in a household where, we played and we were allowed to play. We had all the fun in the whole wide world, but there were certain times that it was like, okay, we're not playing now. Now you need to sit up and pay attention. I call it the when you get to the gate thing. We've been gathering this pasture, and we get to the gate. Yeah. And you might have been riding back a little bit. You might have been tailing along. You might have been going slow. You might have been daydreaming. But when you get to that gate, you better sit up, pay attention, because they're going to try to turn back. And when they do, you better be filling your hole. And those those kinds of lessons, well, they can only be taught by somebody who's right there with you all the time, and that's my mom and my dad, my grandparents. And so that's what I want to try to pass that down to the next generation. um, and just encourage families, encourage parents, be the primary discipler in your kids' lives, be a part of a church and allow that church to help with that. But you spend the most time with them. And so, and discipleship for me is about everything. It's about cleaning up the dishes after we eat. It's about, hunting, fishing, working, whatever, whatever we do, we're making disciples. And so, so that's what we try to do.
Well, Roddy, listening to you talk about all that, it just sounds like to me that the Lord has really called you into exactly what you need to be doing. And when you said right at the first of the piece that we're doing here today that, you felt like he was opening your eyes to try to shed some light for other folks, to teach them what the Word's telling you and how it relates, or how we need to use that in a practical application. Man, I mean, you were just speaking to me through this whole thing. I mean, this has been a really big treat, I want to tell you, for having you in. And before we let you go, I do hope that everyone realizes that, what Roddy's talking about here, this isn't theory. This is actual stuff we can put into practice. But, I've got a question for you, though, Roddy. Don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but since this is a show where we talk some about hunting, if you had someone offer to send you on a hunting or fishing trip of a lifetime, where and what would you be going after? That's pretty good.
Oh man, well, I guess if it's the big dream kind of a deal, I want to go to South Africa, and or to Zimbabwe or somewhere in the southern part of the African continent, and I want to kill a kudu, a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, you kind of knocked out getting a pretty cool trip along with that. That's good thinking. Yeah, no, that's good. Well, listen, we really do appreciate you coming in and bearing with us on some of our technical glitches. We're going to get this worked out as we go. But, man, you came through good. We appreciate it, and I hope we can have you back.
Oh, yeah, well, I enjoyed it, and thank you guys for inviting me.
Before we let you go, tell everybody the address of your church and when y'all meet, just in case somebody wants to drop in and hear you in person.
Yeah, we rent a building. It's 1410 Garfield Street in San Angelo. It's the Gospel Ministries to Children's building, and we have church at 10:30 every Sunday morning, and we have a potluck dinner after church every Sunday. So,
oh wow,
anybody's welcome. There you go.
There's a little bit of Baptist in that somewhere.
Yeah. Amen.
No, I'm kidding with you. No, we appreciate you coming in, and like I say, thanks, Roddy.
Thank you, guys.
Yep, have a good one.
The time has come to sell, but who can you trust to help? This isn't just dirt. It's the place your children took their first deer.
Honey, that's a giant.
The value of the timber is the old wooden stand you just can't bring yourself to tear down. The roads may be gravel, but they access countless memories. This is more than lines on a map. It's your small piece of heaven.
Heck yeah.
This is your property, and that's why we want to be your agent. Realty United Country. Turn your passion into possibilities. The time has come.
All right, we're back. Pierce, I get a big F for my technology.
Oh, hey, we're
running this. I had it all in my head how all this would work and go smooth, and we're going to get there. But, one of the points I wanted to make about the live broadcast, and I forgot to do it earlier, and I hate that because as we had Roddy on, we actually know that we're streaming this. I don't know if you guys know this, but we're streaming this, multi-streaming out to several Facebook channels, YouTube. We're working on getting on also on LinkedIn. But we're also streaming it to Twitter, to our Facebook page, our Twitter page. So you guys have the option to come in on these live broadcasts and ask questions. And, we've got Roddy that was here. I wish I would have pointed that out when we were here, but we're fixing to have John Wilhite come on. John's an agent with Oklahoma Land and Auction, and Pierce is going to ask him some questions, talk to him some. But feel free. I'm going to be watching the monitor over here. It'll work a little easier on this one because I've got the monitor on my side. If you guys have a question, want to pop one in, and you are listening to this live, we'll be able to look at those comments as they come in and even possibly pop one up on the screen. So without further ado, we're going to bring John in. John's been patiently waiting over here in the green room, but we're going to get John pulled up here so we can talk to him. Hey, John.
Hey, John. How you doing?
I'm not sure we're getting any audio. Hold on just a second. Again.
You gotta be patient with us. You know, this is the first time.
Yeah, it's saying right now it's muted on John's end, so I don't know if he can hear us. But let's see if we can get that up and running. While he's working on that for just a second, I wanted to tell you a little bit about our upcoming interviews that we're going to have. We've got some things posted or planned in the works. Next week, it's not official yet, but I'm working on either having Slade Priest and Ryan Wascom, or we could be talking to some folks down in Turkey, Texas. So we're going to have a little surprise there. See if we can get that going. John, we're going to take another little break for just a second. We're going to see if we can figure out this issue with the microphone. We'll be right back.
For all the reasons we at Realty United Country Hunting Properties can list to buy your own hunting and recreational property, these have to be at the top. Contact your local Realty Land Pro and turn your passion into possibilities. The time has come to sell, but who can you trust to help? This isn't just dirt. It's the place your children took their first deer.
Honey, that's a giant.
The value of the timber is the old wooden stand you just can't bring yourself to tear down. The roads may be gravel, but they access countless memories. This is more than lines on a map. It's your small piece of heaven.
Heck yeah.
This is your property, and that's why we want to be your agent. Realty United Country. Turn your passion into possibilities.
Okay, John. You're good to go. We can hear you now.
Monty?
Yeah.
Can you
got
hear
you.
us?
Can you hear us? I'm not sure he's picking us up now.
Oh, great.
Okay. John, we can hear you. Are you good to go?
Can you hear me, Monty?
Yes, sir. Yep, we can. You're not getting us, I take it. We can hear you. All right. I tell you what, guys, we may have to try to bring this piece in. We may end up doing a little broadcast just here in a little bit. Come back in with a second live. We're having some technical difficulties. Let us work on that because I don't want to sit here and make you guys go through that while we're trying to figure out. We're having a little technology issue. But listen, really appreciate you being in here today. Appreciate the interview we had.
Monty, can you hear me?
We really appreciate him being here and thank him. John, we're going to get him back on here in a little bit if we can get this worked out, do a second little stream. But thank you for joining. Be sure and hang in for next week for our next episode of Gun and Saddle.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for watching Gun and Saddle, a United Country M. Edwards Realty and Land weekly broadcast. Have an idea for a future episode, comments, or suggestions? Drop us an email at comments@gunandsaddle.com. Remember to subscribe or follow us today. Join us again next week for a deeper look at the land we all love and the people that call it home. This is Gun and Saddle.
The time has come to sell, but who can you
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying this video. If you're watching it on YouTube, please be sure to like and share the video, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's one of the best ways that you can stay up to date on new listings and new activities that are going on with M. Edwards Realty and Land.
And if you're watching this video on Facebook, be sure to like and share the video, as well as like and follow our page.
Thank you guys.